Hello, duelists. I'm Hexlex here with the news. This is going to be the first installation of another new weekly segment I'm introducing this week in Master Duel, in which we aim to cover all in-game news and updates that are happening within Master Duel. But we won't just be covering stuff that's going on within the client itself. We will also be discussing possible leaks and rumors that have come to light recently. And then we will also be ending off the segment with a meta report in which we'll talk about how the metagame has shifted and evolved within the last week. Of course, we'll have quite a bit to talk about in that regard this week, as the latest selection and secret packs that were released have had a decent impact here on the meta. So let's go ahead and start off with some in-game news. Of course, the most recent update here is the Monster Type Festival event, which is currently underway. This will give us the DD Ghost Mate, as well as the Monster Type Festival title. Woohoo! Now, I gotta be totally honest with you all. I have played a fair bit of this festival so far, and to be quite frank, it's probably the least fun I've ever had playing Master Duel. That sounds a bit dramatic, but it is honestly true. You all know me, I very much value deck diversity, and even during the Tier 0 meta of Tier Elements, where the deck had a average play rate of about 45%, that was already getting to be like, not like, you know, a deal breaker for me, but it was definitely getting annoying. So having an event that's quite literally a one deck meta, where you will face Labrynth at least 80% of the time, is definitely not particularly appealing to me. If you want my 2 cents, I think they really dropped the ball with this event. I understand that they were trying to promote the archetypes from the new selection pack, but I do think they went about it in pretty much the worst way possible, and as a result have created, frankly, an unfun slog of an event. Now, in addition to the Monster Type Festival getting added, we did actually get, honestly, my favorite part of this latest update, which is the Tropical Seaside Icon frame. Just a cosmetic, but in my opinion, the freshest icon frame we've had so far. Honestly, what was even bigger, though, was the more recent version update we had just a few days ago. This added quite a bit of quality of life features to Master Duel, which is something I do appreciate about the game when they update cosmetics and accessibility, just the HUD in general. As you can see, they did quite a bit. Of course, they added some nice little animations for stuff like Red Eyes Black Dragon. The Imperm column, let's talk about this for a second, because there's actually been a little bit of a controversy about this particular part of the update right here. A visual effect being displayed in the column where Imperm is being applied. So beforehand, the column that Imperm activated would glow blue for a moment, but then that glow would fade away. Now it lasts for the entire turn. The implication of this is to remind players of where Infinite Permanence was activated, so that they do not activate any spell or trap cards in that column and get negated by Imperm. But a lot of players haven't been particularly happy with this update. They feel that it kind of ruins the spirit of Imperm. Like, to some people, the idea of Imperm, part of the challenge, is that you do have to remember which column it was played in. And as to whether or not that is an intended gameplay function of the card, has been a subject of hot debate. If you want my 2 cents on it, I'm pretty indifferent about this update. I think it's fine. I do think that I don't think that it significantly, like, weakens the power of Infinite Permanence. It does actually make the card a little bit weaker, and I don't know if I like the idea of an in-game feature impacting the power level of a card, something that exists without, like, outside, without the game itself. But I don't think it's going to be a major impact, so in this particular instance, you know, I think it'll be fine. Among other information that is been added to, the duels there, the game will actually, pop up and show you a little notification not only when a normal summon has been used, but the information icon will now display the total attack of monsters you have on the field. This, somewhat like the Imperm change, has been slightly debated as a bit of a skill factor, although this one I don't see nearly as many people complaining about, because it's really just saving you a couple of seconds to do some math, some very simple math, which is the exact kind of math that I bungle quite a bit. So I personally am quite glad for this particular update. The Duel Live improvements. This, in my opinion, has been the greatest function of the new update here, is that Duel Live now has its own menu, which I think is really cool. You not only get to choose from many, many different games, but on top of that, you also get to get little previews of what's being played in each game. This is a really cool feature. I've already in the past kind of kicked around the idea of doing some amount of videos with Duel Live, maybe even streams too. If you'd like to see videos on the YouTube channel where we just take a look at Duel Live games, what I'm thinking is maybe we hop into some Duel Live games and then sort of critique the game as we go. Like, I'll pause and do a play-by-play of what I think the players should do, and then we'll see what actually ends up happening. Either way, if that is something that you would be interested in, definitely feel free to let me know in the comment section below. And it is something that I would be more than happy to integrate here into the channel. It seems like a fun idea. Alright, so as far as other in-client updates go, there was, of course, also the latest selection pack, the dreaded conspiracy pack that released actually a week ago today, which is kind of why I decided to do this episode of This Week in Master Duel today on Thursday, so that we could cover back to the release of Dreaded Conspiracy. We'll talk a little bit more about actually the release of this pack in the meta report as we talk about which of these archetypes have had a major impact on the meta, although it is definitely clear that Labrynth is the most talked about of these new decks, and for a lot of players, the most hated of them. Players already tend not to like back row decks that much, so when an already very powerful, or relatively powerful back row deck got some very powerful support cards, there were a number of people who have not been too pleased about that. I've noticed that a lot of people have taken to main decking Harpy's Feather Duster, Red Reboot, Evenleys with the intention of clearing out back rows, basically just shoving a bunch of main deck hate into the deck in order to counter labs. At certain ranks, maybe this is okay, but I think if you actually intend to climb upper diamond and master ranks, and do so consistently and experience consistent success, I don't think that jamming your deck, it's okay to maybe slot in one Harpy's Feather Duster, but I don't think jamming in like 3 to 6 cards just for lab is the way to go, personally. Alright, so now that we have covered all of the in-client updates, I do have a brief section of leaks and rumors that I want to take a look at, so let's go into that section here next. Alright, so now we're over here on Master Duel Meta, and with that July 14th update came, of course, not only quite a few updates to the actual client itself of Master Duel that we can see, but of course on the back end there is always fun stuff to data mine. So we're going to go ahead and go through all the stuff that got found within the files of that recent update that hasn't necessarily been publicly made available yet. So the changelog, as you can see, does come with some new accessories, WCS bundle, upcoming secret packs, a WCS dual field, new card animations, and possibly a new game mode. Let's go ahead and see what this is all about. So, new sleeves, they're all pretty much stuff that's expected. We have, as far as like the World Championship sleeves go, the Punk sleeve I think is pretty nice looking. I'm not a fan of these World Championship 2003 sleeves, and the 10E sleeve doesn't look bad. I will say overall though, I really don't like sleeves that just have monster art on the back of them. I don't think they tend to look that great. I very much prefer ones with like designs like these. This purple WCQ sleeve right here looks very, very nice. I really hope this isn't reserved for people who actually participated, because I think I would love to be rocking these. It seems that we also have some potential upcoming bundle sets here. If you might remember, there was a bundle set that was available earlier this year with the 1-year anniversary of Master Duel. That's the gold one that came with the Royal Dark Magician and the Dark Magician monster art and all that fun stuff. It seems that we are going to be having a couple more possibly for the World Championships here. It doesn't seem like they come with anything like super duper noteworthy. It seems to be the icon, the sleeve, the card art, and then some master packs. So if that's all that's available with these packs, these bundles rather, I'm personally probably just going to skip out on them. I don't even remember what these cards are called, but the World Championship versions of Dark Magician and Blue Eyes, I think they're fine looking. Actually, I have to disagree. I hate this Dark Magician's face. I hate this face on this art. But again, neither really particularly compels me to want to buy it necessarily. But, if you want to, by all means, of course, feel free. We will probably be seeing those closer to when the World Championship actually drops. Seems that we have some upcoming potential secret packs coming up here as well. One of which has been very highly requested, Guardian of the Secret Summit. That is going to be the secret pack that will contain Sword Souls, which is currently not a deck that you can build very easily. If you want to build Sword Souls, you pretty much have to craft them all because there's no way outside of Master Packs you're actually able to pull for them. So I think that will be a very welcome update. as will the Punk pack. This is actually one that I've waited for a little bit here. The Ultimate Traditional Art will contain cards that support the Punk archetype. So, as somebody who still needs Rising Carp and Amazing Dragon for a Punk deck, this is definitely, again, a very welcome addition for me personally, and in general, I think, too. Here we have the WCS 2023 Duel Field. I have a feeling this is going to be the one that's used for the event and not one that's going to be made available to us. However, if it is made available to us, I'm not going to lie, this is a really sick looking field and I would totally be down to use it. We'll have to see how that plays out, but again, I just have the impression that this is probably not going to be one that we are actually able to buy in the shop. New game mode / event type. Honestly, I think this one's a little bit clickbaity, to be totally honest. If you actually look at the data mine information here, it's pretty generic sounding. Like, I think the only way you could extrapolate a possible new game mode is by this first line here, which is select group, error, not joined group. But I mean, the rest of this, like point total, point own, metal own, like that could be for events. And then regulation name versus name, that could, I mean, I don't know much about this data mining and what all, like where all this information came from, but I just have the feeling that, you know, it doesn't seem to be anything that points in a significant direction, except for, again, very possibly the select group error, not joined group, but that could be referring to team duels, that could be referring to spectating, that could be referring to any number of things. So we'll have to see how that plays out. I don't necessarily personally think this is indicative of a new game mode, but again, we'll see. And then finally, this update did also bring some new animations for Dark Ruler No More. Got an activation animation. Red Eyes Black Dragon got a game-ending animation. Albazoa got an activation animation, and then I'm assuming Braver did as well. But I mean, who's played Braver since Smoke Grenade got banned? As sad as it is, like really, I just haven't seen it, so I haven't gotten to see the animation yet. Okay, so that's, I think, everything to cover here for, and then, yeah, this is just talking about stuff we already have in game. So, yeah, that's about going to do it for the leaks and rumors. Now, let's go ahead and hop into the meta report for this week. Okay, so for this week's section of the meta report, and probably honestly for a lot of week sections, I'm pretty much going to exclusively be pulling data from Master Duel meta. I do check other sites like Road to the King and YGO Pro Deck. However, I will be honest, it's been very difficult for me to find a site that updates like Master Duel meta, or really Master Duel information in general, as consistently and frequently and with the quality that Master Duel meta does. That said, it doesn't mean I'm only exclusively going to look at Master Duel meta. I will be reviewing multiple sources, as many as I can each and every week. If you happen to have any sources that you'd like to share in the comments below that you'd like to draw my attention to, I would very much look forward to that. So here we're going to be discussing not only top decks from Ranked Ladder, but we'll take a look at some of the tournaments that occurred this week as well. But going to be starting with the Ranked Ladder here. These are of 157 decks that were submitted to Master Duel meta that reached Master 1, so the top rank possible. So I think this will give us a decent screenshot as to sort of what the metagame is looking like right now. Seeing Tier Limit and Sprite on top is definitely not a surprise. Dragon Link following them honestly isn't that much of a surprise either. It seems that Dragon Link is proving to be a lot better of a deck than myself, and I think a lot of people realized when Bestials first came out. It's been honestly a bit of a slow climb. Like, there was a big resurgence obviously when Bestials came out, that was expected, but even after that it seems that there is a slowly gaining popularity in the play of Dragon Link. Of course, the main issue with trying to play Dragon Link is trying to learn the deck, because it is, in my opinion, one of the more complex decks in this current metagame to jump into. Labrynth, as we can see here, is making a decent splash into the metagame in the first week here. We have 10 reported Master 1 decks here with Labrynth, which is right on par with Sword Soul, and actually even above Braided Despia. Now, of course, part of this is naturally going to be because the deck very recently got new support, and whenever a deck gets new support, a lot of people tend to play it. So I do expect that number to drop over time, but I don't know if it will drop significantly. Labrynth is proving to be quite a bit of a powerhouse, and I think will shape up to be a tier 3 deck moving forward. Again, we have Sword Soul at about the same rank as Labrynth, and Despia starting to trail a bit behind them. It's funny, when the Bestials came out, it seemed like far more than Dragon Link or any other deck, people were mostly just paying attention to Branded Despia and talking about how much more powerful that deck was going to be. But we've seen Branded Despia honestly start to fall off a little bit in terms of play rate, and I don't know if in terms of win rate. I think as far as like, how often it's, hitting Master 1 here, or how well it's doing in tournaments. I think Brandon Despia is still doing fine, but it definitely seems the popularity of the deck is beginning to wane over time. Rika, ever since Jessica won the Euro Championships with Sun Avalon Rika, definitely been noticing an uptick in popularity in that deck as well. Definitely makes sense it is a very good deck. And behind that, we're seeing, Trap Tricks. Again, makes sense because the deck just got new support. This one I definitely expect to fall off a lot harder than Labyrinth over time. I do think that Trap Tricks will, I don't know, it's not a bad deck by any means, but I don't know if it can quite break out of Rogue the same way that I think Lab will. If it doesn't break out of Rogue, I think Trap Tricks will be an upper Rogue deck, but I think more often you'll find it... I think you will more often find it in Rogue. There is a chance it could be at like the bottom of tier 3, but I think more often you'll find it in Rogue. And then, after that, we start to fall off pretty hard as far as like the number of decks actually topping. But again, so the tier list, as far as where I would put it, is about the same, with Labyrinth possibly sneaking into tier 3, maybe lower tier 2, if it still sees the same play rate that it is right now. But again, I do expect that to fall off over time. So that's kind of what's going on the ladder. Let's go ahead and take a look, though, at some tournament results. I wanted in particular to point out this app media tournament here that occurred actually just yesterday at the time I'm recording this, because I thought this was interesting. This was actually a team tournament, and it used the World Championship Series format. For those who are unfamiliar with the World Championship Finals 2023 rule set, this was announced quite a bit ago. This is not news by any means, but basically the idea is that each player is going to bring 2 decks, and there can only be 3 copies of a card across all decks on a team. So it means you can't all just stack the same archetype. However, every team gets to pick 3 cards that they get to share between all of those decks. So that's just a brief overview of what the rules look like, and to give you a little bit of context into this section here, where, like I said, I thought this was pretty interesting. I hadn't seen many other tournaments, or at least not any as big as this, that had been utilizing this format just yet. So let's go ahead and see what's going on here. For the first place list, looks like their shared cards were Ash Blossom Maxi and Zeus Sky Thunder, the Divine Arsenal. Spoiler alert, you're going to be seeing Ash Blossom and Maxi being the shared cards of pretty much every single one of these teams here, which I think is really nobody's surprise. And yeah, with this, looks like we have Lab and Runix, who are dedicated Sun player, even on Wabaku and Threatening Roar. That's interesting. We've got, this looks like Tearlaments and Adamancipator, even rocking the Fossil Fusion engine, which is pretty rad. And then their final teammate looks like was on Sprite and Exorcister. So yeah, as you can see, 3 players, 2 decks apiece, pretty much each on 6 different decks. But even then, you still got to mind the ratios and make sure that you're picking decks that don't have too many generic cards overlapping with one another, at least not more than the 3 that your team will pick. Alright, looks like the second place team chose to share Ash Blossom Maxi and Imperm. They were rocking player 1, Exorcister and Tearlament. Player 2 looks like they were on Sprite and Nimron, good old Nimron. And then player 3 was on, oh wow, look at this, they were on Labyrinth and Gladiator Beast, featuring an adventure engine as well as a DPE engine that utilized Disc Commander and Codebreaker 0 Day. Wow. That's a very interesting list here, actually. Got the 3 Andal with the unexpected die and the painful decision. That's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, I really like this list. That is one thing that I think is really cool about this format, is that it does force you to get pretty creative with your deck building, and it can definitely kind of turn the meta around on its head as far as what you can expect from each individual deck here. All right, let's look at the top 4 list. Ash Blossom Maxi Call By. I think in a vacuum, these are probably the 3 cards that I think most teams would choose to share, but I do think that it is worth exploring some other options there as well. Looks like they were on, player 1 was on Tier and Sprite, so I guess this was just the meta player right here. After that, we have Despia, and looks like straight up a stun deck, even utilizing the Scapegoat to make a bunch of Link monsters. I've actually played against stun decks like this before. And then here we have Lab and Adamancipator. Labyrinth does seem to be a very popular choice for this format, which makes a lot of sense because it does play a lot of cards that are unique to Labyrinth and that don't necessarily need to be shared across their decks. Also, it seems like Fossil Fusion is very popular among these Adamancipator decks. Okay, here again we have Ash Blossom, Maxi, and Call By. Player 1 being on Despia and Numeron, player 2 being on Sprite and Lab, and player 3 being on Adamancipator and Pendulum. Wow, no Tearlament at all on this team. That's very interesting. So yeah, there is that. Again, I thought this was a pretty interesting tournament format to be utilizing the WCS format. Gives us a little insight onto maybe how some of the decks will be built in the WCS. And again, like I said, just thought it was overall pretty interesting to check out. We also had the Factory Cup Season 2 finals. The Factory Cup is a tournament series that, from what I can tell going back to the previous centuries, tends to average maybe about 40 to 50-ish players per tournament. It seems like they had their Season 2 finale here. So I figured we'd go ahead and take a look at this because it is kind of like, you know, a best of the best kind of a scenario. First place ended up being Tier Lament. Isn't too surprising. The tier list, I mean, aside from maybe using diviners, it doesn't seem to be particularly, you know, out there. But I think that's fine. Not only do I think that's fine, I tend to agree with that. I mean, you all know the lists I build are typically not too out there as far as like text or anything. We had Twin Sprite coming in second place. It's pretty interesting. Followed by Pendulum in third place. And then Exorcister in third/fourth. Seeing Exorcister this high up actually is a little surprising to me. Although to be fair, Labyrinth does tend to move a lot of cards out of the graveyard, so it does in a way make sense that we're seeing Exorcister see, especially with the 2-red reboot, see a decent bit of success there yet again. So looks like the full breakdown here, it was 16 players who made the Invitational. Full breakdown looks like there was 4 Sprites, 2 Pens, 2 Tears, 2 Runic, 2 Recast Avalon, 1 Exorcister, 1 Dragon Link, and 1 Lab. So there we go. And the final tournament we'll go ahead and take a look at is the Decade Meta Weekly. These are best of 3s that fire off every week. They tend to have a pretty decent participation, so we'll go ahead and take a look at this as well. Top 16 looks like it's going to be a lot of tier limits. That's, you know, to be expected. Branded Exorcister, again, we're seeing a couple of where we didn't necessarily see this deck a lot before. Again, I do think that it might be due to Labyrinth moving a lot of cards out of the graveyard. We're seeing the new archetypes represented: Evil Eye, Generator, Labyrinth, Trap Tricks, and then a few others here as well. Interesting that the winning tier limit deck list is utilizing Beast King of the Swamp. I won't lie, I kinda considered playing it when I started slotting in Grapha into my tier limit deck. I think in the long run that's probably not right, but I don't think it's the worst decision you could be making when playing tier limits right now, which sounds a bit weird to say, but I do think that is true. Looks like in second we had the Branded Despia deck. Top 4 we had yet another tier limit deck. Like, okay, I will say stuff like Supreme Sea Mirror I'm not necessarily on board with, but you know, they did well with it, so definitely can't fault them for that. And wow, Evil Eye ended up making top 4 as well. That's pretty rad. Is Evil Eye the only new deck? Assault Synchron. Is Evil Eye the only new deck that actually made top 4? Looks like the Scareclaw deck got top 8, or that made top cut, period. This is tier Branded. This is Exo. This is tier. This is Exo. Okay, the Generator deck actually got top 16 as well. But I wonder now mostly if... Okay, so I was wondering, I was like, did none of the labs... Oh, we do know that one lab got top 16. That's right, of course. So, and then here's the Atlantean deck. That I kind of glossed over, but to see like a water deck that's not Ice Jades doing very well is honestly very surprising. Especially one that I don't think a lot of people really considered at all as part of the meta. But to be fair, the Mermail deck does have access to Diva as well as the Atlantean Heavy Infantry. Wow, we're even making use of Cardahan as well here. So it does make sense, you know, that we are able to utilize all these different level 2 monsters in order to help us with the sprite strategy. Or I guess I should be saying we're able to utilize the sprites to help this level 2 strategy, would be a bit more apt thing to say. So I think that's all that I've got for coverage for this week. Thank you all for watching this report here. If you, again, have any sources and or topics you would like to see covered, definitely feel free to let me know in the description below. I'm very much looking forward to continuing this series and covering what's been going on here in Master Duel, so that way you can all stay up to date. But let's go ahead and move now to our outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack. You'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation, you do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot, as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now, so without further ado, this is Hexlex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.